Hello, I'm Marcy Corbett, and welcome to my final presentation for the Personal and Social Ethics class with Professor Nathan Gustafson at Colorado Christian University. What is ethics? According to Ray, in Moral Choices, ethics and morality are oftentimes used interchangeably. But however, morality is the knowledge of right and wrong, or the content of right and wrong, and ethics is the reasoning or the process of determining right and wrong. Like in this diagram, morality or morals would be represented in the black and blue, and the ethics would be representative in the person making the decision. Ray also says that ethics is a science and an art. Science, because you need concrete information and facts to make decisions, but also there are some decisions that rely a lot on intuition and gut instinct. There are three issues that I have gained insight in this class. The three issues are reproductive technologies, capital punishment, and euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide. Let's first talk about reproductive technologies. Reproductive technologies are advancements in modern-day medicine that help with infertility. Traditionally, in growing a family in conjunction with God was always called procreation. But because of these new technologies and our modern-day society, that word has turned more into reproduction, which is a lot less personal. And it is analogous to turning children into a commodity more rather than a gift from God. So because I don't have any personal experience myself struggling with infertility, I gained a lot of insight in this issue. I always knew that with fertility drugs and stuff like that, there was dangers for multiple personalities, or not multiple personalities, but multiple pregnancies. And I've heard the term selective termination before too. And I've heard of freezing embryos, but I hadn't really thought or put much thought into what do they do with the leftover embryos if they're not going to use them. And it was interesting to learn about donation, and some people choose to discard them, which is, I believe, morally wrong. It also changed my viewpoints on surrogacy. There was a time in my life where I thought that might be an option, where I would be willing to help a friend or a family member out who are struggling with infertility. But after studying that in this course, I realized that due to the legality and some of the moral implications, that wouldn't be for us either. I also do struggle with some of the fence posts that Ray talked about in reproductive technologies, how he kind of neatly boxed what a Christian is supposed to, keep within those little parameters to believe that something is morally correct in the reproductive technologies. And I'll talk about that more later when I talk about what I'm undecided about. The second issue is capital punishment. Capital punishment, or the death penalty, is ending the life of someone as a punishment for a heinous crime. I learned that the main argument between abolitionists who are against the death penalty and retentionists who are for the death penalty is it just boils down to whether or not you believe killing someone as a punishment is ever justifiable or the death penalty is ever merited. I do have a problem with some of the Bible verses that Ray used to merit the death penalty, and so I didn't put much stock in that. One of the arguments against the death penalty is that the judicial system is flawed, and if somebody's life is taken as a result of a punishment from death penalty, then that mistake cannot be reversed or corrected. I also don't believe that the death penalty is much of a deterrent. If, spending eternity in the fiery depths of hell is not enough deterrent, I don't think anything will be. And I don't believe that once someone commits a murder or a heinous crime, that they give up their right to life. Sanctity means that, sanctity of life means to me that it's not ours to give up, it's God's. And then there's also the argument of justice and revenge. I'm sure that if someone harmed any of my children and ultimately murdered them, I would want that person dead, and I would probably want to do it with my own hands. But I know that that is coming from revenge. In my right ethical mind right now, it's not justice, that is revenge, when you are wanting a person dead who has harmed you. And obviously I am not for the death penalty, but the last reason is for redemption. I believe that everyone should be allowed the opportunity to be redeemed. God has taken some pretty hard criminals and turned them around to do great things for His kingdom. And the third issue is euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide. Euthanasia or mercy killings is when a physician is directly and intentionally involved in the death of a patient. Physician-assisted suicide is when the physician supplies the medical means in which a person takes their own life or commits suicide. I learned that there isn't like a big difference, moral implications between withholding life support or withdrawing it, because both of them, natural death is a result. I know that proponents for physician-assisted suicide is because they want people to be able to die with dignity, or people are in so much pain. I'm a proponent for the sleep before dying option, where the person is heavily sedated until natural death can occur. Although the intent of the sedation has to be to sedate them and not to kill the person. That's where the law of double effect comes in, and it was interesting to learn about that. I believe all life is valuable in the eyes of God, regardless of the quality of life. And I would also apply that to the death penalty, where God finds all life valuable, regardless of the quality of the life or the sin that you've committed. And the undecided topic would be regarding sexual ethics. There are some things that I know how I feel about, but some things are kind of gray for me. And what I need is just more time. I need more prayer, I need to talk to God, and I need more facts to really dig into the nitty-gritty of these different issues. But mostly it's the time aspect of it. And one of the issues that I have, and it goes back to the reproductive technologies and the fence posts that I talked about earlier, is I have some friends who are in a gay relationship. They are legally married, and they have used reproductive technologies to have their son, who is this little ball of joy that has brought such happiness into this life, and he is truly a gift from God. They are in a loving, committed, long-term marriage, and I struggle with that being wrong. So that's one of the reasons that I'm undecided about sexual ethics. So for my case study, I made up a story. So here it goes. Physician-assisted suicide is legal in the state of my friend Sarah. She has a rare terminal brain cancer, and she has been given less than 6 months to live. She is very afraid of the pain and the turmoil, the mental anguish that she could potentially go through, and she's scared of losing her faculties and, just suffering and having her family and friends watch her suffer as well. She's planning on using the option of physician-assisted suicide, and before she does that, she wants to have a life celebration. She has approached me and asked me to help her plan the party where her friends and family come over and say their final goodbyes. And shortly after, she goes ahead with taking her own life. Now, I love Sarah, and I understand, and I empathize, and my heart aches for what she could potentially go through, and I will walk with her and comfort her as a friend as best I can. But just as she needs compassion and understanding in her situation, I need her to respect my feelings and beliefs and understand my decision to not participate in planning of her party. To me, it'd be condoning her committing suicide. I believe the timing of somebody's death is purely in God's hands, and physician-assisted suicide and mercy killings and committing suicide is playing God. And who decides when a person is merited in committing suicide? Who makes that decision? Those are all decisions that are way too big for me, and all of us for that matter. And Sarah asking me to help her plan her party, or if I was a physician to write her prescription to help her take her own life, is just the same as asking me to make the noose and hang it from the tree. The intent and the outcome are the same, and I can't do it. I talked earlier about how ethics is a science and an art. This is where the art part comes in. I talked about the timing being in God's hands and playing God as being reasons for not supporting physician-assisted suicide. But also, it is a gut instinct. I know in my heart and in my soul that physician-assisted suicide, committing suicide, is wrong. I just know it in my heart. That's where the gut instinct, the art of ethics, comes from. If I were to go ahead and condone or to participate in any way in my friend's suicide, I would forever have this pit in my stomach, knowing that I grieved God. And I don't know why people suffer, but it's God's will, and my hope and my faith and my trust is in Him. And just like Jesus said in Luke 22:42, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, yours be done. And in going over this case study, this poem kept going through my mind by Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. There are 3 verses that help me that help explain what ethics is to me. The first one is Jeremiah 31:33. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts. And I will be their God, and they shall be my people. To me, this represents the natural law, or the law of human nature. It's that gut instinct that we talked about in my case study. It's the real moral right. I believe there is a perfect, law, and it is perfect, and we all fall short, but we should all still strive for it, all the same. God has given us the ability to decipher right from wrong, because in this verse, He has written it on our hearts. The next verse is Philippians 2:2-4. Make my joy complete by being of the same mind, maintaining the same love, united in spirit, intent on one purpose. Do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind, regard one another as more important than yourselves. Do not merely look out for your own personal interests, but also for the interests of others. This verse talks to me about the ethics of the greater good for the humanity. You don't do right, you don't live an integral life for your own benefit. It's for the benefit of everybody. It's for the benefit of humanity. We are all like one cell in the body that is humanity, and we all affect one another. And one bad cell can affect the next, and so on. And the right moral choice isn't always what will give us personal gain. Sometimes the right choice is the hardest choice. Oftentimes, the right choice is the hardest choice, and it could be to our personal detriment, but for the greater good of humanity. And the third verse is James 1:22 through 25. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in the mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. To me, ethics, doing right, is a call to take action. Once we know how to decipher right from wrong, I talked about it being the law of human nature, that gut instinct. But once we know right from wrong, we can't sit there and idle and point out and complain and say, oh, what he's doing is wrong, what he's doing is wrong, or life should be so much better. It's a call to action. We all need to take action. God has given us the gifts and the abilities to make a difference, to make a positive change in life. And so, ethics to me is a call to action. Ethics is doing what is right. Do. That's an action word. So, all of us need to do what is right. And I will end in a call to action. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Thank you.